what is their mission? Like government, we need a new word for government, but what is their mission outside of power and control? And this is what
Okay. We need a new word for government. You're correct. If you have a governor on a truck, no matter how much that engine capacity has, if you put a governor on a truck, for instance, I had an S10 and it was very fast. V6, 4.3 liter Vortec, it would go really fast. However, factory setting came with a governor on it. So at 98, even if I was faster than the other vehicle, at 98 it was going to throttle out. Choke, wouldn't go past there. A government keeps us from our full potential, keeps us from hitting our full power. It's a governor. It's a cap on us. Why do they cap us? And where does the rest of this power going? Because we don't know we're capable of it. And that's exactly what a government of the people. The definition, the governing body of a nation, state, or community, the relationship between a governing and a governing word, body of persons that constitutes the governing authority of a political unit or organization. The regulation, restraint, supervision, or control which is exercised upon the individual members of an organized jural society by those invested with the supreme political authority. Who gave them that supreme political authority? I didn't vote. For the good and welfare of the body politic. So it's for their good, not ours. System of policy in the state, the act of exercising supreme political power or control, or by which individual members of a political body politic are to regulate their social actions, a constitution, either written or unwritten, or not even honored. That's the definition of a government. The question is, why do they govern the people? To keep us from our full power or potential to control us, to keep us capped. Where is the remainder going of our energy? Because that is what they're after. He doesn't answer the questions. Their mission outside of power and control. Our souls are put into bodies. Bodies are able to move, exercise, and put off physiological energy. We're also capable of feeling emotions. Being controlled by emotions, they do this by trauma loops. They do this by pressure bus pipes in us that carry emotion, carry the physiological energy. When you exercise, kinetic energy comes off. So they're siphoning these energy off of us by gaslighting us, by driving us through emotional turmoil. They have many devices. Who is they? Well, there are people in the government, part of this political body. These are puppets. These are people put in this position by a higher dimension being. I'm not saying they're higher than where I come from, my soul or my power, but while incarnated in this body before awakening to knowing who I was and what I was trapped into, this matrix, why am I trapped and born into amnesia, not knowing who I am and where I come from? Why do they want me knowing that? Why do they put so much effort into keeping us from knowing that? Because they want to keep the game going. This is information they don't want coming out. They're beating around the bush while they're talking about it. But it's been said by all the celebrities. Why are they eating these children? Why are they taking the blood? Why are they taking these children? CPS is one of the biggest organizations. All these organizations, World Health Organization, putting out these diseases, fearing the herd of people to come get these vaccines, shooting them up with these micro devices that go in the body, inside, into the brain, frequency transmitters. Basically he's going to describe receivers of the signal that they want people to carry, the frame of mind, the mind control. It's all part of the game. I've seen some comments saying they already have our future controlled. So by knowing the Great Awakening was coming, that's why they put out these super devices to try to override what's sent by the universe or what's written in the stars, like how things are supposed to go. So to keep the illusion going, they put in these super devices to kind of like to try to get around. So why you say the matrix isn't going anywhere? What are we going to do to get around it and get through it? Well, what we have to do is wake up, stand up, and put a stop. Knowing is half the battle. So if you know where your energy is going and what devices are being used to control it, your addiction and your dependence on many of the things that the government offers us, if they take those away by doing government shutdown, that puts the people into a frenzy. Like, oh God, what are we going to do without this money? What are we going to do without this? What are we going to do without that? Like, people don't know how to live with themselves. You said being comfortable with the bare minimum, being comfortable without these things, the comforts that they're giving you. And that's how they get these people to do their job. When they just hand them the paper, like Mr. Icke is saying, when the Masons hand down the job, I need you to do this for me. These people don't know why, what, or question why they're doing it, because That's who their paycheck comes from. That's where their luxuries come from. So they know if they were to question that, they would lose that. So these people aren't willing to give that up. So that's why things keep going the way they're going. Because even though we know what they're doing, it's not a conspiracy anymore. The files are out. The evidence is out. You can wipe it away all you want. But now that the evidence is here and we know what's going on, are you just going to keep a blind eye to it? Are we going to ignore it? Or are we going to stand up together? They're talking about another government shutdown. So what are we doing to prepare for no food, no health insurance, no paychecks? I mean, and we know what's going on, why this is happening, right? So do you know why they're doing the rituals that they're doing? Don't you think it's peculiar that the same group of monsters keeps resurfacing through history on repeat? Same storyline. It's the same entity. They're just putting themselves in new bodies, keeping the power. The nuclear fusion has already been, they've already know how to do that. So they clone a new body, make a new body, transfer over. Then this person is all of a sudden in the spotlight. Where they come from, they've got the power. They're mayor, they're president, they're pope. So they've been doing this. So when you pass the, oh my God, I can't believe what they're doing, and then you start asking the why question, okay, you'll get the bigger picture. So we know what they're doing, but are you asking why are they doing it? And Mr. Icke here is very thorough in explaining who is doing what, the higher dimension of beings, the reptilians, the draconians. These are real beings. They're doing rituals, eating children. All these things has actually been going on. It's mind-blowing to me that you people want to like still wonder if it's that's the truth. It might not coincide with the Bible that was written and given to you so that you could adhere to this version of what they told you so that you never believe that that's really what's going on, but that's the reality. We live in a very vast universe and galaxies upon galaxies and multiverses. So if it's crazy to you that there's some other creatures out there that are feeding off of humanity's power that you don't know you have, aren't you vain? Like seriously, wake up.
I am a Muslim, I am a Hindu, I am ours, I call them. You then, because you're in label mode, then you have to label everyone else. So if you're saying something that's different to a label mind, then they've got to label you as something they are not. So if you're saying something that's not in sync with a MAGA mind, you will be called a liberal, a far left liberal. If you're saying something that is questioning the left liberal mind, they'll label you a fascist or a MAGA or a far right. I've been all of them. This is what happens is when you're challenging the whole concept of unquestioning rigid belief systems, what you do is unite all those belief systems that have nothing in common whatsoever except their belief systems, and would agree on nothing. They all agree that you're mad or bad. It's quite funny to watch. But in terms of what you just said there about how does it all work, it's a very simple structure, and it has to be simple because if it was too complex, it would fall apart. And what I have said over the years is that the illusion of complexity is what hides the simple behind it. They're hiding the simple through complexity. So if you look, for instance, at these mainstream academics, where they've got these massive blackboards that you can see on the internet, and the blackboard is full of equations, and no one understands them, probably even the person with the chalk, and you're looking at it, and that's complexity. And what that does is most people who don't think they're very clever, they can be as clever as they choose to be in truth, but that's another story. When you look at those equations on the blackboard and they say, I don't understand that. I'm not very bright. We better leave it to those who understand. Well, maybe they don't understand. Maybe they don't. Never thought that. So, yeah, if we look at the way that the structure works, it's real simple. You've got if people imagine a spider's web around the planet, and in the middle of the spider's web is a spider. Now, that spider is in another dimension of reality. In other words, it's outside of our ability to see it because of what I've talked about. And the strands in the web immediately around the spider are the most secretive and exclusive secret societies. And many of them don't have names. It makes them harder to track and identify. Now, at that level, whoever's involved in those secret societies immediately around the spider, in other words, interacting with the spider, they will know the big picture. And as you come out through the web, you're meeting people who know less and less and less about the real big picture. They only know their part in it. So you come out from the spider, and you go through these exclusive secret societies, and then you go into the secret societies we've heard of, like the Freemasons, but not Bill and Joe down the lodge. They've got a clue. They just go and do their funny rituals. They don't even know why.
Those people
but
about
it's how they do it. But yeah, the inner core of the Freemasons is what we're talking about. And then you've got the Knights of Malta, you've got the Opus Dei, you've got the Knights Templar, you've got the inner core of the Jesuit order, and so on. And what's happening is through those secret societies, which themselves are fiercely compartmentalized, like, for instance, there's 33 degrees of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and most Freemasons are in the bottom 3 levels of degree, the so-called blue degrees. They don't get any higher. So they are, I mean, what are degrees?
So the 33rd degree is the highest, is the top of the pyramid, so to say. 33rd degree. Highest point of knowledge. When I had my awakening, it's been called the Kundalini awakening. The amount of knowledge that came to me so fast. It was just explosive. It just mind-blowing, and it all made sense. It would take my breath because the things I would see, I would be speechless for days after having some of these visions. I can't believe, like, how do you even describe that? How do you even explain that to people? Because these are things that have never been spoken on. But subliminally, I started hearing these same concepts of visions I was having. I would start hearing them, like, said in a different way, coming alive out of songs, out of movies, out of sports commentators, out of every story. So I started to realize these things are all connected. All these ideas, thoughts, visions, these are real stories. These are things that are really going on. I can see them in parables in the Bible. I can tell you, like, how those things are taken from what's going on in the spiritual, what's actually going on with who's who, the way that they apply to the real story and are painted in a whole nother light. It's mind-blowing, and people don't look at you like you're crazy when you speak on it, but it's right in front of your face. We're looking at it wrong the whole time. That's what's been going on. A Kundalini awakening, and the Great Awakening started around 2021. Okay, and it happened for a lot of people, and it was written that this was coming. So the Great Awakening is coming, and that was right after COVID. They thought that the COVID and the vaccine would stop this from happening, and they want everybody to keep their distance from each other, but it didn't. Okay, you can't override what's already written, and it's written in Revelations. So by trying to keep the main key players distracted and asleep and unaware of who they are and what they're supposed to do and what they're capable of, by keeping them messed up in tragic loops, was their game plan. But when that didn't work for them, because certain people God said, not this life, that person's not dying this life. When things are meant to be how they're supposed to be, there's nothing these groups can do. That's how we override the matrix, by people listening to the truth and what they see in front of their face, us coming together, us taking a stance, us not feeding them power anymore, them money anymore, obedience anymore. By standing up for what's right for the future of our souls and our planet. Kundalini awakening is a release of dormant primal and feminine life force energy coiled at the base of the spine, rising up through the chakras to trigger profound transformation, heightened consciousness, and self-realization. It's a physical and spiritual process, often induced by yoga, meditation, or trauma, that brings intense bliss, intuition, and involuntary bodily movements, but can also cause intense physical and emotional challenge if not properly supported. Electric sensations. I feel these up my back, in the back of my head all the time. Energy flow. Feelings of energy moving up the spine, often accompanied by pressure in the head or heart. Mental and emotional. Radical shifts in perspective, intense joy, bliss, or conversely, rapid cycles of fear, anxiety, or emotional release. Life changes. Urgent need to change careers, relationships, or lifestyles to align with a deeper purpose. Others. Sleep disturbances, intense sexual energy, or spontaneous spiritual insights. Okay. The benefits of Kundalini awakening. Higher consciousness, access to expanded awareness and improved intuition. Physical and emotional healing. The energy cleanses the body and psyche of old traumas and energetic blocks. Connection to self. A deep sense of inner peace, purpose, and connection to the divine or universe. The primary purpose is to purify the body and mind, ultimately allowing the individual to embody the divine in their daily life. It breaks the cycle of the same suffering, samsara, leading to a state of equanimity and unconditional love. Continue.
Degrees of knowledge that you're allowed to have. And the level above you decides if you can come into their level, and therefore it's a self operating system to filter out anyone who might be trouble.
So while these Messianics were sitting around their table, because they watch us, they were watching me far before I had my awakening, and kind of was like, uh-oh, when after I did have my awakening. They tried to get rid of me several times. While they're sitting around their table, I could hear them saying, it's an abomination for a woman to have this much knowledge. Because I could see what they were doing. And for some reason, that's why it's men and the Masons and stuff like that. Because they don't want women having this much knowledge. That's why they don't want women having positions of power. Unless, of course, it's somebody that they appointed from their royal family or Jewish family or whatnot, because they're going to listen and do what they're told. But somebody like me, coming from where I come from, I guess I'm a liability, because the amount of knowledge and spiritual gifts that come with that are carried in my bloodline is dangerous if it gets out of their hands. And it has. And it's leaking like wildfire while this great awakening takes place. Things that have been seen that people couldn't believe coming out my mouth are now coming out. Even the kids are talking about it. And I've been saying this for years, but I was crazy.
So you come out through the secret societies that we know about. We know they exist, but we don't know what they're doing. Although if you do the research, you can find out. And they're bringing that spider agenda that's coming from the spider, this other dimension of reality. And you reach eventually a point on the web, the what I call the global cult web, which I call the cusp. And that's where the hidden part of the web meets the seen part of the web. And this cusp is where you find the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, many parts of the United Nations. You find the Club of Rome that was created specifically in 1968 to use the environment and environmental concerns, including many hoaxed into existence, to justify centralization of power. Because if you look through the progressive so-called history, so much more to know about that,
they do everything behind the back, but they won't let you face to face.
You see a pattern of the few controlling the many all the time, and another pattern is the incessant centralization of power. So we started off in tribes, and the people in the tribe decided what happened in the tribe. Then we brought loads of tribes together under what we call nations. Now a few people at the center of the nation are dictating to all the former tribes that form that nation. And then you've gone on to the European Union and these other groupings. I mean, the European Union, it runs Europe, and basically who runs it is a handful of bureaucrats in Brussels that answer to this cult. This is how the whole thing works. So it's this constant centralization of power that we've seen. And now we're, I mean, in America, you've got a guy through an executive order, if it's not pushed back by the courts, and many times it isn't, who is actually signing a document, one man, and it becomes basically law of the land. It's insane, but that's how the centralization of power and how far it's got. And what they want is a world government, ultimately not elected, but selected, what they call a technocracy, where people are appointed, experts, bureaucrats, technocrats, etc.
Because they're able to appoint themselves
under the world government, they want to break the world up into regions, regional
if you look at the Last Judgment on Michelangelo's painting,
that is what Trump is in the process of being used. He's just a front man, a gopher, but.
And it's showing the awakening because everybody's questioning, like, hey, look at what's going on. Mad, furious. Chaos.
That's what's unfolding in the Americas with, Elon Musk's grandfather, a guy called Joshua Alderman, was pushing in the 1930s. He was in Canada, but it came out originally America. Something called the technocracy. And they produced a map of the technocracy they wanted to impose upon the Americas. And eventually, Joshua Alderman, Elon Musk's grandfather, moved with his wife to South Africa because they were big supporters of apartheid, and they felt at home there. Of course, Elon Musk was born to Alderman's daughter in South Africa, and then moved back to Canada, first of all, and then the United States. Well, if you look at that map, which is there to be seen, that Alderman was pushing, and so were all these other technocrats in America and Canada, at the bottom is Venezuela. Next to that is Colombia. It moves up through Panama, Central America, Mexico, United States, obviously, Canada, which becomes part of this technocracy, this technate as they call it. And at the top end of this map, guess what lies there? Greenland. So you're seeing this whole thing unfolding now. So the role of the cusp organizations like the World Economic Forum and others, along with non-governmental organizations, NGOs, many of them involving George Soros' family, and think tanks galore. These have the role of taking the Plan for Humanity, global AI digital dystopia.
So think tanks, as I've seen them and understood them, when they go in think tanks, it seems to me like they are taking thoughts I've had, okay? They have machines where they take thoughts that we have that and it all gets written down on a paper, printed out in words. Where are these think tanks? I know there's a mind control machine in Germany, okay? And you say, oh, that's crazy. No, it's not. Because they took the collective consciousness of all those individuals that they've kept asleep and didn't know our higher power, know our higher our super conscious. Like, they took all of our knowledge. They took all of our intuition, our powers, our spiritual gifts. And they've been siphoning them off of us. Don't believe me? That's what they've created these underground pipelines for, that pull our energy down and pull our energy up into the clouds, which carry them. That's why they have cloud seeding. That's why they have cloud machines. It's electromagnetivity. That's what they make storms for. I mean, they have raging machines and devices that literally secretly carry off your power. Take them underground, take them into the pipelines that they've built all around the world underground. You don't even know it. And then they get to they've got the Large Hadron Collider. Why are they trying to recreate the God particle by smashing these protons together? To recreate your power. So they want to become like God, but by taking your God or goddess power, your high frequency that they don't have. So they fed on those who have the God particle in them. Okay. They've also divided humanity off by doing experiments on this God particle. So the ones with the God particle are boson 0. That's boson 0, boson 1, boson 2. Boson 2 being, I don't want to say the weakest link, but they're not pure and have like pure energy and strong like boson 0. Okay. Boson 2 were probably the ones that got killed during COVID. Eliminated. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't make it. They're the ones like clone. I'm not saying those are the clones, but clones died because they don't have they don't have they don't have an immune system like boson 0. Boson 0 got spiritual power. And their immune system is A1. So those who survived plagues, those bloodlines that got passed down, so they have plagues to eliminate the weak ones so they can follow the strong ones. Like, how did they survive? We need their power. They're the ones with the power. And so, through the bloodlines, they watch us. That's why these things are created to wipe out humanity. This is the game, though, the higher dimension that he's talking about has been playing for a long time. Recycling you, and you not knowing that we've done this before. We've been doing this. So when does it end? When do we finally get to have the world we create? What's right? Not slaving your whole life away, traumatic cycle after traumatic cycle, fearing death. Just so you can do it all over again. Come on. There is a better world than this.
playing it out into mainstream society through governments, government agencies, corporations, World Health Organization, Silicon Valley, the media, all of it. The World Trade Organization. And so when you get to the world that we see on the news every day and interact with, it seems like everything is random and nothing's connected. Why are they doing that? Why don't they do it this way? I can't understand why they're doing it like that. But if you look at these organizations like corporations, like governments and government agencies and World Health Organization, Silicon Valley, all these things, and they're compartmentalized organizations as well, just like secret societies. You know, you have your job that you're designated to do in a corporation, but you don't know what's being decided in the boardroom, and you don't know when you eventually find out this is what's going to happen. You don't know why. You just get your orders and you do your job. So yeah. So it's everywhere you look, a tiny few people are running these organizations. Now, this is the point. If you go deep enough or high enough in these organizations, all of them, World Health Organization, Silicon Valley corporations, all the things I've been talking about, governments, government agencies, you reach that point which connects with the web. And at that point, all these organizations that appear so random and unconnected are all connected and on the same team. So during COVID, the World Health Organization starts to dictate, which was created by the Rockefellers in 1948, with the specific job of controlling global health policy. What the World Health Organization did was dictate to all the countries of the world, or nearly all of them, how they should respond to COVID. Now, you'll remember that the Silicon Valley corporations, I was banned by them, they came out and said anyone who's questioning, exposing, whatever, the World Health Organization or health organizations in countries' version of COVID, we are going to censor. And immediately you go, you're supposed to be the town square where all this is debated. What are you doing? Right at the start, saying we're going to censor anyone who's challenging that. But when you realize that if you go deep enough in the World Health Organization and deep enough in the Silicon Valley corporations, they're attaching to the same web. So at that point, this part of the web is censoring challenge to this part of the web. And it was the same when the big pharma corporations like Pfizer and Moderna, they go to the so-called protection organizations like the Centers for Disease Control and the FDA, and they ask for permission to give this fake vaccine, not a vaccine under previous criteria, to younger and younger people, younger and younger kids eventually. They kept getting permission. And you're going, if you don't know about the web, you're going, what are they giving permission for when they've had no trials, public trials anyway? They would have had other trials to make sure it did what they wanted it to do, and it won't cure COVID. But you had these organizations going to these protection organizations and saying, we want to give this to younger and younger kids, and more boosters. And the so-called public protection organizations of government were saying, yeah, we'll give you permission. It's like, what? But when you realize that you can go deep enough into the CDC and the FDA and deep enough into big pharma, you meet the web. And so the web is giving permission to the web to target more and more people with their fake vaccines. This is how it works, and ultimately it's this other dimensional force, which is talked about throughout known human history, if you want to look, that's actually orchestrating this, because this what I just described, this global cult, is serving the interests of that other dimensional force within the frequency band we call human society, and they're manipulating events for a particular reason, to elicit an outcome, which is human control ultimately.
So as you can see, like David just goes and goes and goes, and I'm not gonna lie, a lot of times I was trying to really listen and concentrate.
You've made such an intricate,
and a lot of you are also at the point where you're seeing the files, you're hearing video, you're seeing videos, listening to some things, and I feel that the pulse of humanity, not just here in the US, but around the world, is how do we change this entire structure of what they call government, because they never were truly for any of us. So the big question is there a way of heading back to where we control it, just people, tribes, villages, where we look after each other and figure it out for one another, because we're the ones that build everything, we're the ones that do everything. Is there a way to heading back to that without violence?
They're kind of flexing their muscle with this ice, and I feel like that's the reason behind ice, is to kind of scare us and see what we'll do, If we don't like you, we'll remove you, your kind. And it's really just a scare tactic. Kind of like the same thing with it happened in, with Hitler and World War II. Same thing happened. It does need to be in the hands of the people. They've shown, and it was written in the Constitution, and was also written by Abraham Lincoln, that when the government shows that they can't be trusted, and they've lost the trust of the citizens, when they've done shady things, when the truth comes out, we as America, we have the right to exercise taking the government back into our own hands, impeaching the entire government, and setting regulations for ourselves. Will there be a judicial system? Probably not. Will there be a prison system? No. Will there be programs to feed families, get free groceries, help pay bills? Well, if that government isn't shut down, the government, owns, those are government agencies as well. Like, those are monopolies. The electric company, to be able to monopolize electric, the state, the land taxes. Okay. Without that, people won't be homeless. Without having to pay these huge mortgages and rent payments to keep shelter. That's not something that people should have to slave away for, to have basic needs met, like food. These farms and stuff that we're able to have, why aren't our people able to eat food that is healthy for them? Like, we have vast farmlands. Why can't we go and pick food that will sustain our family? Like, these are basic needs. The stuff that they put in the grocery store anyways, that junk that just kills your body, you might not be able to get that. But once you realize what it's made for, it's not made to sustain you or give you a long, healthy life. It's meant to kill you and shorten your lifespan drastically. So, water. Again, they're putting stuff in water. Maybe we want it in our own hands, because the chemicals, fluorine and stuff like that they're putting in the water, the fluoride, chlorine, all those things, is keeping the pineal gland closed. Not good for you. Its chemicals aren't good for you. So, but they make it so you have to get that water and live in it and bathe in it, and like, it's not pure water. It's not. Again, like medical stuff, like, we have medics and doctors and anything for like things that happen that require medical attention. But as far as these diseases and this healthcare industry that they've been making so much money off of by putting diseases out there, by putting it in the food, putting it in the vaccines, putting it in the things that are just, all these devices are making people, especially the worst part about it is like the childhood cancer. Like, you gave them these vaccines and stuff. You put that shit in their body just so you could make some money off of torment, trauma, just heartbreak. It's god awful what they have put our people through to make $1 and scare you. It's sad. So without that, I think we'll be a lot better off, and I think we'll be a lot more capable of managing each other, and I think we'll sustain just fine without the help of the government and them slaving and managing our time that we have on this short life that they have shortened our lifespan to. I just wonder what it will be like. Such freedom, such just bliss, such euphoria. Like, what a world I can imagine without this harsh narrative that the government has placed upon us, all to experiment on us, all to manipulate us. For what? To take children and eat them, and all these sick things that they've been doing and make it legal, to legally be criminals. That's what the supreme government has done, and we're not exercising our right to stand up and put an end to this? Is there a way to do it without violence? I believe for us there is, but their reaction to it. But at that point, they're not for us, and you said it very well. So, stand up for something or fall for anything. But I came into this world prepared to fight for my right to live and love and know myself.
And to get it all back from their control, because they control everyone. They control our taxes. They control our money. They control our enslavement or how much we work and all that jazz. Is there a way without violence? What is the way? And this is what David Icke had to say.
That's what it is. It's addiction. I mean, I was born in 1952. I'm 73 now. And so I saw the world before it became what it is now. And so many things, trinkets, gadgets. I'm not anti-technology. I'm anti-technology controlling humanity. But you people think, especially, you see, when you're born, the world you're born into is your normal. This is how it is. So I was born in 1952. There was about 7 years after the Second World War. So my normal was very different to someone being born in the last few years, and they're normal. And they will see certain things as must-haves, couldn't do without. Whereas me in 1952, and people like me in 1952, we didn't have those things, and we didn't miss them. And so they create not only an addiction, they create dependency on what they control. And these phones now are both an addiction and a dependency. It's really extraordinary. But the thing about the tribes is that the further you make decisions from the people affected by those decisions, the worse the decisions are going to be in terms of their effect on these people.
Low-income, poverty-stricken communities, I know for a fact while I was stuck there that these lawmakers, these people couldn't last a day living where some of these people were born to and stuck in, and made sure that they were never able to break free. But by giving all these government assistance and things in exchange for what? Oh, you didn't show them the fine print, right? The exchange of their power, their soul, a piece of their life force that you had them trade and sign over for. You didn't tell them what the other end of the bargain was, did you? You just gave them the free food, the free phone, the free housing. In exchange for what? Because nothing is free.
I mean, you look at the European Union, they're deciding on what happens in various parts of Europe. They've never even been. They know nothing about. And this is where you get your appalling decisions from. But of course, it's also orchestrated. And so we have this addiction, but the addiction is not for addiction's sake. It's for a reason. So the idea all along has been to get nanotechnology in the body, which self-replicates is what's happening. Just look at the people around the world, the scientists and what have you, who've looked through electron microscopes and seen this stuff happening in the blood in the fake vaccinated population. And the idea is that you create a hive mind, which is founded on a technologically generated electromagnetic field. Because through that electromagnetic field, you can pass frequencies, information. It's what frequencies do. They carry information. And if you've got something inside the body that can receive that information, well, you're creating a hive mind. And before people say that's far out and ridiculous, well, what does anyone think these towers all over the cities and the towns are doing? The 5G towers, with Trump now pushing 6G, which is going to be a real pivotal moment in human history, when if that is allowed to come online, it's pounding out these frequencies, which this nanotechnology, self-replicating in the body, is designed to receive. And in these fake vaccines, I've been interacting with various people around the world who've been investigating this, scientists and scientific research groups, etc. And they are pointing out that one fundamental element, which is not on the contents card, by the way, in these fake vaccines, or many of them anyway, is something called graphene oxide. And graphene oxide is a relatively new substance, well, at least officially, and has amazing properties. And it can be inserted in a hypodermic needle in a vaccination program. And two of those properties are that it is a superconductor of electricity. So if you get this stuff in the brain processes information and processes perception electrically. You can rewire the brain. And another element of graphene oxide is that it's a amplifier of electromagnetic fields. So if you've got graphene oxide in the body, even at the nano level, if you come into contact with electromagnetic fields, the effects of those fields will be amplified. So then you say, well, hold on a minute. If they
nanoparticles have been seated in the clouds, in the environment, you can see them in the environment. You can see them as dirt on the floor, and if you look close enough, you can see them actually move at light speed. Nanoparticles. They get in your skin. These holes that are in your skin, these are actually nanoparticles that go in your skin and pull it in. That's what creates wrinkles all over you. Okay? It's in your food. It's in your body wash. It's in your shampoo. These nanoparticles are in your laundry detergent. They're in everything, my friend. Graphene oxide, nanoparticles. That's one kind. Single layer carbon sheets, less than 100 nanometers, heavily decorated with oxygen-based functional groups, making it sound good, right? They offer a high surface area. Now let me also tell you what oxygen does. Oxygen goes to our brain. So these are things that circulate to our brain, right? They offer high surface area, exceptional mechanical strength, and crucially high biocompatibility, making them ideal for targeted drug delivery, bioimaging, and biosensors. They are also used in electronics, energy storage, and environmental remediation due to their unique conductivity and reactive surface. Their ability to generate reactive oxygen species. Ongoing research focuses on assessing long-term effects on living cells. So we're research, basically. So they're researching the long-term effects on living cells.
They want, and I suggest that's what they do want, they want a technologically generated electromagnetic field through which this hive mind can be as a conduit. Then you can have all the towers you like in the towns and cities, that's fine, but you ain't going to create an electromagnetic field across the whole planet through which you can do this. No, what you need is low orbit satellites. And that's what is going. You shouldn't address it, but while you're completely focused on it, while you've got soap operas going on all over the place, this is what's happening. And that is to make you look that way while the trick is done that way. And this is the most important thing of all. It's the fact that the human mind is being hijacked and human emotional reaction is being hijacked. And if you go back a few years, there's a few years now, you had this Google executive, so-called futurist, got these books. That yellow book here is one of his books, Ray Kurzweil, who claims to be the numero uno of the great AI revolution. And he said a few years ago that by 2030, and we're now in 2026, humans will be connected to AI via the cloud. This is what I'm talking about. And once that connection is made, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is basically negligible. And, well, deleted is what it means. And that's where we're heading. And all these smoke screens and diversions, and there's going to be a hell of a lot in 2026. We've already started. Is so we're not keeping our eye on that ball, which is well, it's fundamental. I mean, you know, you can ask questions like, who are we? Where are we? What is this reality? Who's running the world? To what end? But once AI is doing your thinking for you, it ain't going to ask those questions. It's just going to be submissive to authority.
So here's the big question. Knowing that all the evil people in control also run militaries, they technically have all the technology, they have all the weapons, all the intelligence, they're spying on us 24/7, listening to us 24/7. Do we win? Do we win? Is there a world where humanity and people win without all these monsters in control? This is what David had to say.
How can I put it? Intelligence on a scale where you tap into real intelligence as opposed to not artificial intelligence. So that's certainly relevant to that. But you come out of academic intelligence. You come out of left side of the brain intelligence, where most people live in the left side of their brain. But if I could just lay out another level of this structure, because it would answer that question you're talking about. And when I said earlier about instead of looking for solutions, let's look at the cause of the problem. It doesn't mean you don't do anything. It means you identify what is the cause, and then you target the cause, and then the problem must disappear. You don't say, oh, that's the cause, so I'm off for a cup of tea. You target the cause. But the point is that we can't understand, I would suggest strongly, how human society is controlled without understanding where it's coming from. And for now, well over 20 years, I've been saying and writing that we live in a virtual reality simulated reality.
So I want you to realize how long David's been into this. He goes into this whole virtual reality, which I'm hearing more and more and more. And listen, I don't know how to grasp it or understand it, quite frankly. I only know my world where I can sit and I pray, like, I hope this one's okay. And what do you want me to do? And how should I do it? This whole idea of everything's a simulation, and where I'm open to listening to the conversation. I'm open to any conversation as long as it doesn't promote pure evil. So just check out what David has to say about this whole situation. If you can go on his journey, or as I would say, whoa, we're going into the woods on this one. He goes deep in the woods on this one. Check out David Icke on virtual simulated reality.
Yeah, it was just after the turn of the millennium. I mean, I've been thinking about it and coming to that conclusion for years before that, but just after the turn of the millennium, it crossed my line. I thought, this is real. And so it works. I tell you the interesting thing, and not coincidental either, plays out. And it gets faster and faster and quicker with no gaps. Why aren't there gaps where people invent the next thing? Because it's already there. This technology is already in the underground bases and the secret projects, and it's played out in a sequence to give people the impression that it's a natural sequence. And they bring on these front men like Gates and Zuckerberg and the Google blokes and everything to give the impression that it's all organic, when actually no, you're just fronting up something that's coming out the underground.